Welcome to Scandalwater,
where we cover the stories that have captivated the entertainment world.
I'm Candy, a longtime educator and community theater actress.
And I'm Ashley, a writer and co-founder of a local theater group.
We're two friends who share a love of entertainment.
From true crime docuseries, to blockbuster movies, to classic TV, to Broadway shows, and everything in between.
Each week, I share a compelling story related to pop culture.
And I chime in using my trivia junkie brain.
We stick to the facts until it's time to settle into our armchairs at the end.
Then we're simply two women with a strong cup of tea and even stronger opinions.
We're Scandalwater.
And if this sounds like your cup of tea,
follow the show on your favorite podcast app or the Scandalwater Podcast YouTube channel.
Oh, it's that time of day. Tune in and hear what the ladies say. It's time to bend your ear when the silver screen appears. Stories about the stage and screen and everything in between. So come on and join the fun. The curtain opens in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, Ashley.
hello.
You ready for this interview?
I am so ready. The interview with Nancy was amazing.
Amazing.
I can't wait to hear how they all interact together and to see their friendship. And these ladies, I admire them so much. I admire their strength, the decade that it took for this story to come to fruition. Do you want to catch the listeners up for what happened?
Yes, absolutely. So you guys will remember we started season 5 with a 2-part podcast series on Scamanda. And then these lovely, amazing, strong women actually communicated with us. We have the opportunity to speak with them. We've already released our podcast interview with Nancy Moscatiello. Mm-hmm. Catch up on that. Well, actually, first, if you're not familiar with Scamanda, go listen to either the docuseries, the podcast, or our podcast series. Get caught up on the story. Then listen to last week's interview. And then join us for this interview with Lisa Berry, Nancy Moscatiello, and Aletta. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
We are so honored to have with us today Aletta, Nancy Moscatiello, and Lisa Berry from Scamanda. Ladies, thank you so much for coming here and talking with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Just making a little editorial comment. I know Ashley and I were so invested, so engaged in watching Scamanda and listening to the podcast as well. And we felt like we knew you through that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think anybody who is familiar with Scamanda, I think was with you all. We had so much empathy for you, Aletta. We were just rooting for you guys, Lisa and Nancy, with that ongoing investigation. It was just amazing. And then we had the opportunity to communicate with you all this week. And our little fangirl hearts just about exploded when we realized that you are such tight friends in real life. I had a chance actually to have a phone call with you, Lisa, and then you all put us onto some interviews with Tracy Lynn that we've already mentioned. Almost every single time one of you speaks, you say the kindest things about each other. I mean, it's just beautiful. And so I know this is kind of a question that's a little different. But to start, I thought we would throw this fun question at you. Amanda C. Riley will forever be known by the name Scamanda. But thinking about your two lovely friends who are with you here today, what 1 or 2 word name do you think would capture the essence of those two women?
Well, Aletta, it would be genuine and kind. So really just sweet as can be. And not that Lisa is not genuine and kind, because she is, but she's also fierce and courageous. They have different dynamics that came into play. How I first met them, right? Lisa, my first thing was like, wow, this woman is really putting it out there, right? And then my first discussion with Aletta, what I was putting out to her, she couldn't have been kinder in her response about people she was having a lot of issues with, which it just speaks volumes. Mm-hmm. So that's me. That's how
Lisa, do you have a word to describe your friends?
I think for Nancy, I would say brave heart, because she is courageous. She's determined. She's fierce. She's loyal. And she's brave. And I think about how Amanda did a video compilation. I saw it on YouTube one time to the song Brave by Sarah Bareilles, I believe. And I thought, no, that's not you. You're not brave. Nancy's the brave one.
Mhm.
So I think I would say Braveheart. And then for Aletta, of course, Sweetheart.
Aw.
Because just like Nancy said, she is just sweetest person. She's just so kind. She's so gentle. If I had to think of someone who would play her in a movie, I think I would have to say it would be Reese Witherspoon.
Oh.
You guys are too sweet. And then for Lisa, I would say very protective, and she's very loyal, a very loyal friend. You can really go to her and talk to her about anything. And same thing with Nancy. Nancy is determined, as you can tell, and she has been very supportive as well.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think it's interesting. Yeah, you have to remember when Lisa reached me. I mean, obviously we don't know each other, right? So you get this feeling, you understand kind of where they're coming from and the passion behind it. But also, they were Aletta and Lisa, they didn't know each other, right? They were pitted together, but not with each other knowing this. They had no idea that, so the idea that this friendship came out of such a genuinely kind of an odd background, right? This
Yeah.
two different ends. And we were really specific, like when this all took place, I made sure they knew that the other existed, but they never met. And they did not meet until the guilty plea, right? The change of plea. So we made sure to keep it where they didn't speak, they were not involved, just in case it did go to trial or there was ever a question about anything. So they interacted, with me and we'd share information or ask a question here and there, but it was a long time coming for them to finally be able to say, we're friends, like this is it, like this bond. So I think that's unique, they were really strangers.
Yeah. Love it.
That leads into my follow-up question. Speaking of your all's bond, can you talk about the party that you threw for the finale of the docuseries?
Nancy had planned to come and join me and Aletta for the finale. And at the very last minute, I said, let's just invite some of the other people. Because I think Aletta said, hey, can I bring my sister? I said, let's just invite some of the people. It was very last minute, local people. And it was wonderful. We had a wonderful time. First of all, I'd never met Mahasti before. I had only seen Lindsay at court, and I had not met Amy or Rebecca.
Yeah, I think I had met everyone individually, as I've spoken to them time and time again, but then just having everyone together was really a nice moment. I think they've been through a lot. It takes a lot to put yourself out there to speak, the jitters of all of that. It's kind of it's a big thing, right? It's a scary thing. And so it was nice to see them all. Lindsay was there, right? And yeah, it was really nice to be able to speak with everyone and just kind of, okay, we did what we had always talked about, which was getting her name out there.
Mm-hmm.
We knew that when we did the podcast, we were like, there, it's out, it's done. Hopefully she can't do this to others. That if anyone ever has a question, they'll look it up and hopefully they'll find this. So that was kind of the goal.
Mm-hmm.
You all still talk to everyone? That was
I think Lisa does more so, right? Because they're all up there together, so they can kind of see each other more.
Yeah, I see Lindsay and I just love her. She's awesome. And of course, Aletta and Nancy, when I can see Nancy when I go to Los Angeles. I've been seeing Nancy in Los Angeles for years now because I go often. I have family there. So we
Yeah.
get together whenever I go there. So, but the party was so fun. Everybody we all felt like we knew each other. There was a lot of bonding. It was very joyful. And Aletta brought these cupcakes. Want to tell about the cupcakes, Aletta, that you brought?
So it was Amanda on their prison. What do you say?
Yeah,
Nancy?
not quite a mugshot, but
There,
in those
yeah.
filings, I talked about those filings earlier.
Yeah.
With that, they attached her prison photo, which
Yeah, so
generally there's no
Cupcake.
mugshots that you can get. So this was attached there, and I was like, oh, so it was, it meant something to us. It punctuated the moment. So.
It's hard, I think, to wrap your mind around the fact that you guys had all been struggling through that for years. And then you got to come together to share this incredible sense of accomplishment together. Like it's like two different bonds that brought you together. It had to be amazing. It had to feel amazing in that room.
It was nice.
Well, Aletta, I know we speak for the entire Scamanda audience when we say we just felt so protective of your sweet, beautiful daughters and you too. So can you please give us an update on how everybody's doing?
We're doing really good and we're all good now. So yeah, Jaymie has a 2-year-old. She's married, and Jessa's also married and she's expecting. So we're going to have a little grandson here soon. Yeah, the girls, they're doing their best to put everything behind them. They're just trying to move forward, which is good. And me, I've been married for 8 years, together with my husband for 13. So he's been through all of this with me. Yeah. So it's been nice to be able to focus on my family now. Whereas before there was no focus at all because I was constantly in court and being dragged through the mud. So it's nice to have that peace now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can imagine. So there's been so much coverage, obviously, of the Scamanda story, not just the original works, but of course, all these follow-ups like our own podcast. So in all this, I know there have to be some things that people did not get right. Even in our own podcast, we know there are some things that we missed. So what is one misconception from whatever source it may be that you would want to clarify?
I could speak on that. So one misconception in the docuseries, which I feel is that the church was sort of portrayed a little more innocently than they really were. I feel like they were given the information early on enough to stop Amanda, and they didn't. Also in court, I had given, the information to, it was in the moving papers in the court that there was an investigation, and Cory's attorney, which was the pastor's daughter, didn't do anything with it. It was very frustrating. And in fact, she even spoke to Nancy at one point.
Yeah. So
that was one misconception. The other, I'll let you go ahead and comment on that. I do have another.
Yeah, no, you have another. But I think that's important to know too. Like once I made a breakthrough with Detective Martinez, he called the church pretty quickly. And he did the same with Amanda, right? To kind of say, hey, I'm looking into this stuff. So, that was September of 2015, right? So that's pretty early. I went back and looked at the documents that Aletta is talking about. It was October of 2015 that she made the courts aware that there's this investigation and hey, this is concerning. That's really early, as far as I'm concerned, and also that put it on Cory's attorney's radar as well. Now, again, she didn't have to believe it, and she was probably like this lady, but it's she supplied. Here's who the federal agent is. Here's a phone number. Like at least
do something.
Yeah, understand what's going on.
Right.
So I think that's the frustration.
And Jessa's attorney also had the same information because she had her own court-appointed attorney. And again, nothing was done. They were kind of all in cahoots together, pitting.
They just couldn't fathom. I think the problem lies with no one could fathom that who would do this. That doesn't make sense, right? And I hope by this documentary and everything that came out, that opened the eyes to a lot of people that there are people like this out there, that people do this, and they use it as a weapon in the court system. I think the way Alita felt, but I mean, I sure did, looking through the way he was being called out and a liar and all this stuff before the cancer diagnosis. And then whoop,
Yeah.
I mean, we have recordings of them in bankruptcy court. And Cory's like, my wife's bone marrow transplant is on our next court date. So can we move it? Oh, yes, of course, Mr. Riley. Let's move the date, and rightfully so, right? Your people, they accommodate, but the courts knew and they didn't take it into consideration. And
it was easier for them to believe that the ex-wife was crazy versus the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other misconception that I have too is at the end of the docuseries, Charlie had interviewed Amanda off camera, and then she came back, and Amanda had said that the money that she raised, a lot of it went towards our divorce and the custody battle.
Okay.
And that's not true. Amanda was victimizing herself again. And in my eyes, I mean, to probably everybody else's eyes, hopefully, that there's no accountability there still. She didn't learn anything. She's still blaming me.
Well, and they have to, file paperwork, right? So first of all, he was representing himself for the big chunk of, right, the beginning portion until 2012. Then Cherise Fisher took over helping via the church or however I don't know what the accommodations was, but, through the years when he would file his hardships, right, there were no legal fees listed, or there wasn't, as where you would say, I have spent that tens of that whatever maybe to help get your hardship or whatever. There really wasn't anything to document that I saw. So I think that idea that all the money went to fighting this divorce is just absurd.
Yeah, because didn't you talk about in the interview with Tracy Lynn, there's something about only $75 anyway, and you had forgiven that?
Oh, yeah, I did. He was supposed to pay child support $75 a month. And I told him, don't worry about it, because, I felt bad for them. I mean, having had a family member, my own daughter, that had cancer, I know the struggle.
Right. So it's
only $75, so just forget it, kind of thing,
Right, which just leads to the impossibility of her later saying, well, all the money went to Aletta. First of all, there wasn't that much money that was supposed to go to you, and secondly, you forgave it.
Right. At different points, child support was a little more or less, whatever, it would fluctuate depending on the situation, especially when there was a hardship involved on his behalf.
Yeah.
Because of Amanda's cancer treatment.
Yeah, Aletta was paying him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Lisa, do you have any misconceptions you wanted to clear up?
Yes, that Steve and I are this old couple. We were this really older couple who were just so grateful for this younger, cool couple in our lives. And, I have to remember this was 15 years ago, and I had a third grader, and all the other moms in the class were like around the same age as me. My daughter's now graduated from college, but we had a lot of friends. We had our own life. Amanda and Cory were very much wanted to join into our circle. If I was 15 years older, I mean, people are seeing me in the docuseries 15 years later. Yeah, we do look kind of old to have a third grade.
Right.
There was one other, Nancy, you can tell me if I need to stop this one, but I did not call CPS on Aletta.
Oh, yeah.
I called CPS on a fictional man who was supposedly in Aletta's circle, who I was made to believe was harming Jessa.
Yeah.
And Aletta did not lose custody because of that phone call. In fact, nothing was done with it. When I followed up after, Amanda just kind of dropped it because she knew it wasn't true. So they just gave that information to me, not expecting that I would call, but that I would go to court and say she's unsafe in this home because of these people who come around.
Yeah, depending on how, when you listen to it, it was in the podcast, like how that was interpreted, but it's absolutely, so that just shows you even more what they were about, right? There was this boogeyman, so to speak, that they made sure to
And
slip
that's not
into.
the only time CPS they had somebody call CPS. It's
Yeah.
happened multiple, or they'd call themselves. I remember one time one of the ladies came over and she was like, "I'm so sorry." I'm like,
Wow.
"Aren't you guys tired of coming?" It must have happened at least 3 or 4 times throughout the years. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt really bad about that later, but I did the right thing in the
It's
moment.
okay, Lisa.
And there was more to it. I just didn't want to get into all the details of it.
To me, it was extremely important because it just showed the depth that the two of them went to. Because remember, this is Cory's court hearing, okay? So Amanda inserted herself in it as the wife and provided information and whatever. Maybe the way it filtered back to Lisa, right? Or this was a game they were playing.
It was nonstop for you, Aletta. It was like something all the time.
Nancy, did we kind of go over your misconceptions, or
I was involved with, especially for the podcast, going through it, going through the cuts, like knowing the information that was going in. So I felt really confident about everything that went out in that everything was factual. But I think it was, more so once it's out there, like Alita said too, like things take on a life of their own. This wasn't listened to by a few people. You're talking tens of millions. So everyone's going to have a different version, a different thought process, because a lot of it too makes you kind of relate to yourself sometimes. And so people just, I would tell them as after it came out, I'm like, don't look at the discussion boards, don't look at that stuff. It's hard not to, but it is what it is. Some people are gonna, that Nancy should never have butted in, or who cares? It's hard to let it roll off, but it's important to, because everything we did, everything that happened was the truth. And I think that's, you always, when you have truth on your side and it's factual and we can check everything out, like that's important.
it is? And I think it can also be once it's released, if you're releasing a true story, but then people such as myself and Candy, if we cover the story, then it can be a game of telephone. And then people
Right.
listen to our version of it, and then our version of it becomes the truth. And that's why we try to be so accurate. I know Candy was super accurate in her research, but that's important.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
people's lives.
Yeah.
Okay, Lisa, you mentioned in the Tracy Lynn interview that Amanda's cancer seemed a little bit selective. So can you kind of talk about that? Because I thought this was such a great point and I wanted it to be brought up for our listeners.
She was always sick when there was nothing going on. There's a party, there's a trip, her wedding reception, everything leading up to her wedding, she wasn't sick. And I noticed that also was a pattern, because when we were watching her in her blog, it was the same way. We'd see her doing all these really great, fantastic things when there were, freebies going her way. And then when there's nothing going on, oh, that's a great time to be sick.
Right, right. That's what we talked about in ours. I was like, Andy, this feels like she's not missing anything. And I feel like people who were sick miss things.
She missed nothing. Nothing.
Except work.
Except work.
Yes. That's part of the game, right? She would go to every event or concert or anything she could go. And again, people are giving her these things because they want to help and they want to say, here, she's flying 8 times to New York. I mean, she would post and the blogs, right? And we covered a lot of it in the podcast, but she's in New York. She's getting this life-saving treatment. She has a lung collapse, an allergic reaction. She's hospitalized. And then that night she's at Peter Pan on Broadway, meeting this backstage. I mean, and this is in real time. She's posting this, all these different things. And, we're all watching from afar or like look at it and we're going, oh my God. Like one of the last times she went to New York, same thing. She went to the Botanical Gardens. She went to the Bronx Zoo. She did a bus tour. Like she did all this. And then in the same breath, was up all night vomiting and had to go back for extra. The doctor took her in on a Sunday to say she could fly. Like she was everywhere having a good time. It was, I guess, convenient cancer.
Yes.
That's a very good way to describe it.
Yeah.
Yes. Alita, looking back, do you have any red flags from before Nancy contacted you? Is there anything that now
No,
sticks out?
other than whenever I would ask Cory, because I was concerned, what's going on with Amanda's treatment? What's the next step? What are the doctors saying? And the question would always get dodged. And I always thought that was kind of weird. And then I would think, oh, well, maybe he just doesn't want to talk about it. It's too painful.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of left it.
And she's asking from a spot because she went through it with Jaymie, right? He was there for this. Like, this is a conversation. It wouldn't be an unusual conversation.
I don't know.
Oh, I was just going to say my mom one day in court said, Aletta, she shaved her head. And I was like, well, she has cancer, but I think my mom was kind of a little more in tune with, hey, something doesn't look right. And then of course, both of my parents went to the pastor and said, I can't help but think that the church is being taken advantage of. And they actually,
that was before me. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they quit going to that church because they just felt they were being taken advantage of. And
eventually, I think after I spoke with Aletta, of course, she told her her mom and her sister. They were like, "Wait, what?" I think the mom they were right. They questioned not so much the cancer necessarily, but something didn't feel right.
Right.
And they were actually present when all the money was being put at the feet.
Oh.
And that was the last time they went to that church.
So how did they feel about that? What was their
They were just utterly disgusted.
Because again, that was before anyone knew or suspected anything. They just felt off about it. And they went to the pastors then.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why my parents did go to that church was because during the time that I didn't have Jessa, they had custody. That was the only way my parents could at least say hi to her really quick. And my niece also went to the church as well, so she could be in the same class as Jessa. Like, there was no access to Jessa in any of our family. There was no access to Jessa. So that was the only way.
You don't have the words for this kind of behavior. You just think this feels like
it's cruel.
It's cruel, and it feels almost like Marvel supervillain levels of behavior. You can't fathom that real people behave this way, but they do. And
they do. And if their point was to get at me, it worked.
Yeah.
But it affected everybody. My family, my kids, my husband, the grandparents, cousins. I mean, we all were affected by all of it. I'm glad it's over.
So we asked Nancy her thoughts about Cory's level of knowledge or complicity, but we want to throw that same question to you guys, Lisa and Aletta. If you have any thoughts you'd want to share.
I have a lot of thoughts, but I'm just going to keep that, out of respect for Jessa. But I will say, I do feel he knew.
Okay. Lisa?
Well, remember that we knew Cory and Amanda in 2010 and 2011. And Amanda told me she had cancer in 2010. And number one, she had an overnight hospital testing that she had to do. I had to call and I spoke to Cory. He was at the hospital with Amanda for her overnight testing because Jessa was staying at our house. Number two, he was standing right there pacing when she was asking me for money for the blood test to save her life. Number three, he told my husband 2011 August that Amanda was stage 4, that she had months to live. How could he not know that she's faking when after the baby? Oh, and another thing he did was he called up my husband after I talked to Amanda and unloaded her from our life. And he called up my husband the next day and said, "Hey, Steve," it was on a recording. Steve didn't answer. "Hey, Steve, I heard about what happened. Hey, I'm sorry you guys feel that way. But I just want to let you know that I really respect you. I've really enjoyed our friendship, and I hope we can get together for a beer sometime." So he knows that I accused his wife of faking cancer, but he still wants to be friends with my husband. The main thing, telling my husband that she's stage 4 and dying. And then he's standing with her as she's saying, I was just diagnosed after this baby was born.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So he
Yeah,
had
I think it's clear that the actual conception was it 2 minutes after did she come up with this and he go, hey, that's a great idea, let's do that. Like, I don't know what that origin story is, but there's no way he didn't know. He wasn't at a hospital, clearly, right? He wasn't at these things. So I guess you could trace it back to maybe there was a, so was she telling him privately, oh, I have cancer. Oh my God, no. As soon as the cancer came in Lisa's situation, it was the ask for money, right? So that's my thought on it.
Mhm.
So let's talk a little bit about that, Lisa. It's kind of the famous moment in the Scamanda story when she calls and you say, "I thought you were dying." So what did she actually respond in that phone call? And then tell us about the check because and how you got your money back because this was in the interview with Tracy Lynn. I thought this was just genius. I was like, this lady, Lisa, I love her even more.
Well, first of all, I knew she was faking cancer. Once I realized after she went underwater with the little band-aid behind her ear, I knew she was faking because I went back and I'm remembering all these lies that she told me, all the things that didn't add up. And I was making a list. So I made a list of all these things and I checked all the things that I could check. And I'm like, she's lying about this. I can confirm this. I can confirm this. I can confirm this. And, I talked to a friend who's now an oncologist, and she said, absolutely no way would she be swimming underwater with a little band-aid behind her ear after having fluid drained off her brain. And so I knew this was the case, and I was so disgusted by her. I just wanted her out of my life so bad. I can't even tell you. It was just, my skin was crawling just thinking about her. And she had borrowed the money she had said, oh, I need this money to save my life. Of course, she had these, right afterwards, she had those fancy pictures taken of herself, all very artsy, where I think that's where my money actually went.
Mhm.
So I believe it went. But she had asked me when she borrowed, she said, oh, my parents want to pay you back. If you can pay now, they'll pay you back. Well, I wasn't going to ask her for money back for the blood test or her parents. I thought she had cancer. Now I realize she doesn't have cancer. And this is, maybe about a month later. And I said, so she called me and I said, Amanda, when are your parents going to pay me back the money that you owe me? And she said, well, I'm at the hospital right now. Well, they want to pay you back, but I'm at the hospital right now. I said, okay, that's fine. When are you getting out of the hospital? And she said in the afternoon. She said about what time? And I said, okay, that's fine. Can you please swing by my house and drop off the check for the blood test? And she said she would. Now, I didn't actually really believe she was going to fall through come through with this, but I think she really wanted this friendship really bad because I know that I had connections with other people. She figured through me, she could leapfrog through the community. This is what I believe. So she came and around the time she said she would, I put my car in the garage. I did not want her at my doorstep. I didn't want to see her. I just felt pure evil. My car's in the garage and I watched her from upstairs, put the check in the mailbox. And as soon as she drove away, I drove it to her bank and I cashed it. And there was actually money in the account. I was not expecting that it was going to cash, but it did. And then the next thing on my list was to get rid of her.
Right.
Get rid of her, have nothing to do with her.
That check was important because you fast forward to the federal case and Lisa still had the canceled check to show she paid her, and then the return, and that was important for Agent Lee at the time. So it seems maybe not important or whatever. Who knew that the years later,
Ah,
because they could back it up of why they gave the money and what it was for and all of that. So that was important.
that's
Right.
amazing. So what did she say to you when you said, I thought you were dying? Did she have a response?
Oh, okay. So after she paid me back, I think she thought everything's fine.
Right.
Okay. Everything's fine. I immediately blocked her on social media and I blocked her on my cell phone.
Mhm.
But and her husband and from my husband's social media. But I couldn't block her from my landline. This was in 2011. And she just kept calling and calling. And I knew the only way I'm going to get rid of this woman is to answer the phone. And I'm hearing from my niece that she's pregnant. She's going to ask us to be the godparents. And I was so disgusted. I mean, this is within a month of her husband telling my husband and a friend of ours, a mutual friend, that she had months to live. And now she's pregnant. And I was so disgusted because I already knew. I already had all of her lies lined up. And so I decided to answer her call. And she told me she had some really good news. And she told me she was pregnant. And of course, as you know, famous line, I thought you were dying. And then the most famous line is pregnancy is reversing the cancer.
So that's literally what she said. I thought you were dying. Oh, don't worry about it. The pregnancy is reversing the cancer.
Yeah. Oh, forget about that. Just forget about that other stuff. I'll get to the cancer later after I have this baby. But right now I'm going to have a baby now. So let me focus on my baby, and there's no cancer anymore. Just forget about it. It's gone. Anyhow, I confronted her. I said, I do not believe you. No, I think before I said that, I had a list of things. I said, I checked this. This is not true. This is not true. I said, what is the name of your oncologist? I had a pen ready. I had my computer too. And right there, she gave me this name. I typed it in. It didn't exist. And I just said, I just don't want anything to do with you. And as I was hanging up, she was still trying to convince me to be friends. I had just accused somebody of faking cancer. And instead of being appalled, she's like trying to hold on to this friendship. I hung up the phone and she was still, I could hear her voice still talking. Click. So that was it. Wow. And the last time I saw her after that was, or the next time I saw her after that was in court.
Man.
It's pretty remarkable that she has this discussion with Lisa, right? Lisa calls her out. You don't have cancer, blah, blah, blah. And they still had the baby and resumed and was putting it out there. I mean, like they both had to know that they had, you know what I mean? That there were these folks they had told this to already. So it's just crazy to me that you would try it again.
Oh, and they kept inviting us. I kept getting to parties. Like 4 parties after that. I was surprised to find out they had taken the scam as far as they had, because they sent me an invite to Cory's birthday party and they invited all these people, and the only 2 RSVPs. And I went back to this. I went back to it years later when I brought it up for Nancy, and only 2 RSVPs were Cory and Amanda. They had no friends. So they went from that to this, this big elaborate scheme. It was unbelievable.
It had to have been the blog. That was the difference.
No, it was the church.
Oh, the church.
Oh, it's the big church.
Oh, yeah, the church. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And do you think that they were just figuring that you guys were going to be nice, kind people and not mention it, and that's why they felt like they could get away with it? Or
well, they were no longer in our community. They were not in our community anyway. I guess they were using some other address to be in the school district. And they got caught using that address because they invited the whole class to a birthday party. I was actually so sad when she told me that Jessa was not going to be in the class any longer, that they weren't in the school district. And she accused Aletta of calling the school and so forth. And I thought, oh, what mother would, it didn't make sense to me, because I didn't think a mother would do that to her child. And I'd seen Aletta at the school with Jaymie watching the Halloween parade. I'd seen her. I was thinking, I found it hard to believe. I thought it was probably one of the parents, but I was really sad that they were no longer at the school. And now, she was going to be at another school, and the girls were really close. But then they moved again, probably about 35 minutes away from our house.
Okay.
And they were in a fully new community, but they were still friends with my niece on Facebook. But yeah, she probably just figured,
they had an instant community of the church. and it was an easy place to put out that you need money and you need help. And I wouldn't even say, yes, she would put out money, but she would drop breadcrumbs, right? Oh my God, I have to get this test. You all know how insurance is. It doesn't cover it, blah, 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 blah. So all of this is building, and everybody understands that. People can relate to that. And once I got involved and started going back in those blogs, it was funny. I remember a conversation with Aletta going, oh, okay. So here she is, like laying out the breadcrumbs, like insurance doesn't cover this, it doesn't cover that. And Alita's saying, they have Kaiser. What do you mean? Like, so like because she knew because
Jessa had it.
you know what I mean? Like that was all part of the custody thing that she knew a lot of the truth. So the idea that and why wasn't she going to Kaiser for the base? Like she wasn't, right? There was always these other places besides there. I just was funny that, we know the insurance doesn't cover this or that, because people could relate to that. It's a common thing, right? So
it's interesting to me how they both had such a history of getting away with it. I mean, we talked about Amanda as the liar, but after this conversation earlier with you, Nancy, I think it was clear to me Cory's been a liar for a long time as well. And it sounds like neither one of them ever got stopped until you all.
It felt very hopeless at certain points.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it was incredibly hard to sit back and watch what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
So Nancy and Lisa, one of my favorite stories at the end of the Tracy Lynn interview was about Ruby Begonia. Can you guys tell us who Ruby Begonia is and how she relates to this?
Well, let me set it up by saying the Ruby Begonia was a lot of stuff was happening. Everybody's waiting, we're waiting for these charges to happen. When my court, when she filed the restraining order, one of the things she commented or accused me of was posting online commenting about her faking cancer or, alluding to what was going on under the name Ruby Begonia. And I remember seeing that at one point and going, what? And then Lisa can fill you in after that.
This was, after Amanda had taken everything off of social media that she could possibly take off. She had given an interview to some lifestyle magazine, and she was, I think it was titled, Why I'm Grateful for Cancer.
Yes.
And actually someone else wrote, who I know with her own name, who's a nurse, said, Amanda is faking her cancer, and there's a federal case happening right now. And so underneath that, only thing I did with Ruby Begonia, which was obviously fake name, I just said, what mother of 2 young children is grateful for cancer?
Yeah.
She thought it was Nancy. And
She thought it was Nancy.
Because Lisa, you are the queen of being able to just get under her skin with these little tiny things, the downvote, the comments. And it's like, it's the perfect thing to get under her skin.
I think also we got to a high number of 30s in the downvotes. She had over 35 downvotes, I pretty much believe.
Oh man.
Which, this is a really touching video of a woman with cancer, and to see that, it was genius.
It was a way to warn people.
Yeah.
Wait, why
do where it was coming from, like
her?
Yeah.
I think you should start an investigative firm called Ruby Begonia.
That's funny.
Okay, well, we definitely want to talk about vindication. I mean, especially Nancy and Aletta. I mean, Nancy, people thought you were horrible when you would call and you would question Amanda. And I mean, they called you vile. They were all kinds of things you went through. And then, of course, Aletta, I mean, they tried to destroy you, absolutely destroy you in every way they could. So when it finally came out, when she changed her plea to guilty, how did that change things for you? And did you ever get any apologies?
Honestly, when she pled guilty, it didn't really mean much to me because I knew she was only saying that she was guilty because it was the best outcome for her. So again, it was a selfish move. I would have liked to have seen it gone to trial and see what other information would have come out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a selfish move on her. It was what was best for her.
Well, then let me change the question slightly.
Okay.
How about when Scamanda came out and the whole world saw?
Oh my goodness. Okay, that's vindication.
Yes.
Yeah. I knew the truth would come out as soon as Nancy got on board. I didn't think it was going to take as long as it did. And I don't think Nancy did either, but it was kind of the icing on the cake. See, I'm telling the truth. They go, I have a whole list of people in my head thinking they better watch this, you know.
Any apologies?
The people that were involved with the docuseries and podcast, yes, but the people that directly made my life and Jess's life an utter living hell, no, I haven't heard anything from them. And honestly, it's probably better I don't hear from them at this point or at any point. They mean nothing to me. They can't hurt me anymore.
Yeah.
So
when the podcast came out, I know Aletta, I don't think she'll mind me sharing this. She shared the link to the podcast with an email to the different individuals that she wanted them to know, like, look, I presented this stuff to everybody in court. Like, here you go, here.
Yeah, whether they listen to it or not, I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it felt good to do so.
It did. It did. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, how about your vindication, Nancy? I mean, after all those years, I mean, did you get people coming back to you and saying, thank you for exposing this? People who
I mean, immediately the folks that participated in both the podcast and the docuseries, they didn't owe me any type of apologies at all. But when they could finally digest and process what they had been through, they were extremely thankful. I was contacted by a lot of folks in Amanda's world that they didn't need to apologize, but they just said, we are so grateful to know this now and to work through it, because it's a huge betrayal. And I've heard from family members of Amanda. They had wanted clarification. They wanted to understand better, right? They heard about this podcast a lot of times not knowing it was about their own relative until they happened to be listening, and they reached out and just was like, whoa, okay, do you mind us asking some more questions? Because again, they were living a totally different experience or whatever. And so they really, I think, weren't getting the answers they wanted from family and just wanted some clarification on some things. And I think that helped them a great deal. So I always, if people reach out, if I see it and get to it, I try and explain, because there was a lot of not even hurt feelings, just not knowing how to put it all together. So, which I'm glad it helped, because they were going through a lot.
Yeah.
And I also made it very clear, I think we made it clear in both, especially from the podcast, what Aletta was going through, what it was like. Because a lot of them were maybe folks that wrote letters to the courts on Amanda and Cory's behalf, or I should say Cory's behalf. Like, there was a lot of that going on. A lot of people in that church wrote really supportive letters to say how great Amanda and Cory were. So that did damage.
Lisa, do you have any?
Well, I was the anonymous source, so I didn't have any people really questioning. I said to my husband, well, see, I was right, that kind of thing. But I did get a lot of support from even my classmates. Someone even put on our high school class page, they'd seen it and posted it. And I got a lot of really positive, wonderful messages from people I knew, people I hadn't talked to in a long time who'd seen the podcast. I got calls from people I hadn't talked to in a long time. And I got a lot of really nice messages. People sent me private messages through social media. Even though my media is private, they still sent me messages that I found in the folders. And it felt really good.
Especially after the doc, because she was able to say they felt comfortable enough to talk about being that source.
I remember sitting in my bedroom in my little bed watching the doc, and I was trying to figure out who was the anonymous source. And right before you sat down, I was like, oh, and then when you were revealed, it was just like, oh, this girl, I just love her. She's amazing. Because it was fantastic. If she hadn't have done it the 2 years before, I feel like she would just have kept on going.
100%. Yeah. There was nothing to stop her. There was no, unless I never could wrap my head around, with such a large congregation at church, and I had a conversation because remember, Charisse was representing Cory in family court.
Yeah.
But when I had left a voicemail for Amanda, when I was ready to move forward with stuff early on, Amanda didn't get back to me. Charisse did. And she said, oh, I said, oh, are you also Amanda's attorney? Why are you calling? Are you representing her for,
Whatever.
on behalf of why I'm calling? And she's like, no, well, no, I'm Cory's attorney. I said, okay, so I'm not going to answer. What is it that you want? Because you're not her attorney. And she's like, well, I'm a friend. And I just, why are you saying these things? And I was very clear. And I said, well, do yourself a favor. You've got a large congregation. You've got people there. You need to go through the blog and you need someone, an oncologist, a medical professional, somebody look at that blog and really fact check it. I said, and here, and I gave her the federal agent's name and number. Said, I'm not the one doing it is out of my hands. I am doing for TV. I am not, I am not an agent in any, I am doing this for a TV show. Here's who you need to speak to. So, and again, that was 2015, October 2015. So they either couldn't wrap their head around it or chose not to.
So we occasionally end our podcast by reflecting on the lessons that we can learn from whatever situation it is that we might be talking about at that time. And so we thought a really nice way to conclude this interview would be by asking you ladies to share a few nuggets of your wisdom after having gone through this really, really long and grueling experience. So we have a different question for each of you. And Aletta, we're going to start with you. What advice would you give to someone trapped in a seemingly hopeless battle against their own Amanda?
A Nancy. Go get yourself a Nancy. I don't think I would have gotten far if it wasn't for her. So that's why I say that. I think also, get a good support system, friends, family, pray, all of those three things together really helped me through all of it. And then also, in a kind of different situation, because I think mine's kind of unique. If you're going through a custody battle, you don't want to talk bad about the other parent, because that parent that's alienating one parent against another, it'll backfire. It's not a good thing. It's hurtful to the child. It's not good for anybody. So no matter what, just respect the other parent.
I love that you said that. I'm jumping in here for just a second, but so many times when you are struggling like that, having an advocate makes all the difference. I mean, your first reaction was get yourself a Nancy, and you laughed. And I thought, but what a difference it can make when you have somebody on your team and you have an advocate. And then of course, your second piece of advice, kind of, in your second.
And let me make something clear. I didn't go get a Nancy, and Nancy got me. Just so people don't try to mix that up.
True.
That was an easy out for them in their minds. So
great point.
Lisa, what do you say to others who feel like they're alone standing up against the wrong? Because you were working on your own for a little bit too until you got yourself a Nancy.
You need to be very patient, and you also need to figure out what are the best avenues that you need to take. I don't recommend lashing out, publicly or doing anything like that. You got to kind of keep things to yourself and find someone. Like for me, I tried the tip line. I tried multiple other different avenues. I even, considered the church, but they didn't have a hierarchy. I'm Catholic, so in the Catholic Church, if it was happening at a Catholic church, I go to the diocese because they would, keep you private. So I think the most important thing is try to find someone who that is their job to handle these kind of things, and pray. I prayed a lot about this because I did everything I thought I could until I started looking online. And then I found that little comment from Nancy, and I don't think that was an accident. It was just like a needle in a haystack. I mean, she's one of the most amazing women I've ever met in my life. And she had no fear throughout this whole thing. I would have been so scared. A lot of the stuff she had to deal with, I was thinking, oh my gosh, how's she doing it? But she did that. She's a professional, and that's the thing. So I recommend that.
Yeah, and everything's changed. I mean, now people are very vocal on social media or in different places when they feel there's been a wrong. And that's not always the best answer to just put someone on blast and put it out there. But that wasn't around necessarily when we were going through all of this. And again, my job as a producer and the stuff is is to get the facts, to see it through, to gather everything, the research, doing interviews. Like it's a process. Don't take it lightly, and it's extremely vetted, and it's important to put something out that's accurate. So you got to keep the faith. You got to keep plugging away at it. I think even now with social media, people can get their voice out there if they're being wronged. If you have the truth and the facts behind you, then you should feel comfortable speaking up. It's hard. It's not an easy thing to do, but if as long as you're doing it from the right place and you have the backup of everything, you feel confident about it, it's important.
Don't be making accusations without the proof or anything like that. I think there's been some of that happening. At least that's what I've heard.
I know just from the everything coming out, it's kind of taken on something where people go, oh, wait a minute, I know someone like this, right? Like, because you just didn't make that leap necessarily before. And I think it's sad that that's the world we live in, but that is the world we live in, right? It's very easy to make a GoFundMe. It's very easy to ask for money. Now, social media, you buy somebody's Cash App, their Venmo, like it's out there. So you want to be hesitant. You don't want to, it's horrible for those that really do need help, right? So, but it is the world we live in. So you don't want to discount it, that's not going to happen and no one's going to do it, but you also have to be aware of it. And now there's some laws, some a case on the books that makes it hopefully
Precedent.
yeah, makes it a precedent setting type of thing.
Yeah. You guys have already given such great advice just in that last little conversation, but I'll throw this out anyway, Nancy, with you delving into this so deeply. We heard you in the interview mention something about a few common red flags. Do you have any of those that you could name or any tips that might specifically help people avoid falling victim to a scam?
It's hard. And I've been asked to look at so many people's, accounts, social media accounts, and it's tricky. Cancer is not the same for everybody. So we had the luxury of so many years of her blog posts, and she was extremely specific. So the red flags would be if they're talking about very specific things, you want to look at, okay, they're saying that they're being treated here, that this is whatever the very specifics are is what you kind of want to see if those things exist. But I don't recommend just an average Joe calling up a hospital, calling up like saying, "Hey, this person," like that's not okay either. Because it's hard. That's why these kind of cases don't happen often because it is really hard.
Yeah.
Definitely looking at what kind of pictures are they kind of put yourself in that. Okay, is it possible that these things are easy to replicate? And if you really feel like, maybe call up local law enforcement the best you can and say, they're raising a great deal of money. This is what I'm seeing, and something just isn't sitting right. And you can say there's been this show like Scamanda, like people do this, and this, you want to bring awareness to law enforcement and just say, can you please look into it? Don't know if they will, kind of squeak a bit, kind of keep on top of them, but let them handle it the best you can.
You guys, it has been such a pleasure talking with you three. Thank you so, so much for talking with us, having this conversation. We have so much respect and admiration, and it's just been an honor. Ashley, do you have anything you want to add?
No, this has just been as lovely as I thought it would be. Listening to you all, we felt like we knew you. We felt like we were already your friends. And we were so nervous going into this, but I just feel like, oh, we're just all hanging out and talking. And I'm like, wait, say professional. We have to. You're just wonderful and lovely. And I'm so grateful to you all for what you did, firstly. And secondly, for talking to us today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So glad you guys have an interest.
Oh, absolutely, we do. Yes, absolutely. Okay, Candy, how are you feeling now that we finished our second interview?
I almost have no words. Okay, you know what? Here's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
You all, not only did we just get to sit and have that interview with these three amazing women, but afterwards we got to stay on and chat with them privately for what, another 20 or 30 minutes, and it was just like we were one of their friends.
I know.
It was amazing. I'm calling it right now. This is going to go down in history as one of my favorite podcast memories ever.
I think so. When we finally got off the call and everything ended, I was just sort of still floating on this, first of all, cloud nine, but then also feeling like this happened so fast because for us, it's September 19th. This is not going to come out until November, but Lisa contacted us last Friday. And
Yeah.
1 week later, we're interviewing them. And it's like, what just happened? How did this just happen? What amazing favor. And I'm just overwhelmed.
Absolutely. We said this to them in the interview. I mean, they're just such a tight friend group. You see their bond, you see their respect and admiration for each other. They're so warm, so complimentary of each other. And then as we were talking to them, I mean, we felt that warmth too. They are just so inviting and approachable. And it was delightful. We could go on and on probably about that one point alone,
We could.
but maybe we should mention a few other things that struck us
Sure.
from the interview.
So why don't we each take, because we don't want this episode to go longer than it needs to. So why don't we each take like one point that kind of
Okay.
stood out to
Okay.
us. So if you want, I can go first.
Okay.
The thing that made me go, aha. And for me, it was the point that Amanda's cancer was selective, that she wasn't sick when there was something that she wanted to do. But if there was nothing going on, then that's when she was sick. We've talked about this privately. I've felt like if you're sick, you can't help it. You know, you're always sick. And if you can help it, then you're not really sick. That's just a personal thing I've thought. But that was sort of like, okay, that's another big point for me in the she's definitely thinking this.
Absolutely.
What do you think?
We could both name 20 different things that struck us, but I'm going to go with the behind the scenes that Lisa shared about how some of those things played out, like getting her money back and that check and that whole scene was fascinating. And then to learn that the check played an important role later in actually, I guess, convicting, is that the right word? Convicting Amanda?
Maybe, or proving that the funds were there, kind of
right.
thing.
It somehow was important in the investigation.
Yeah.
Also, it's such a teaser. We will all remember from that docuseries, I thought you were dying and I wanted to know how the rest of that call went. So that was just very satisfying.
Yes,
very
absolutely.
Satisfying. To know that she confronted her and said,
she is so brave. I really think that they need to open Ruby Begonia investigations because Lisa is so innovative and she just knows exactly the right little bit to just get under the skin of her opponent. And then you got Nancy's doggedness and Alita's sweetness. And can I just say, Alita is absolutely as sweet and precious as we all thought that she was from the podcast.
Absolutely. I mean, to find out that she and the girls are all doing well, I mean, just made our hearts so happy. But you just said it, what a team they made. Here you have sweet Alita, and then you have Lisa, who's not going to let something go. She sees something that's wrong out there, and she's gonna work to right that wrong.
Yep.
And then I heard one of them refer to Nancy as their hero.
Yes.
I mean, how many of us would have, first of all, who would have known what to do? Right. Who would have been brave enough to do it in spite of lawsuit, at a lawsuit and everything else? And then the perseverance to stick with that. I mean, unbelievable.
Here's something else I want to point out about Nancy's character that really made me go, you're an amazing woman, is the fact that she let Alita and Lisa lead. She said, it can be over. If you don't want to do another thing about this, she's convicted, she's been sentenced. This story can be done. And she let them decide, are we going to do a podcast? Are we going to do this or that? And I thought, wow, this is a woman who makes her living in television, telling stories. And I mean, obviously she didn't know that it was going to become what it is, but to say it's in your hands and to mean it.
Yes.
What a woman.
Yeah. They truly care about each other. Truly care about each other. And she's in television. Of course, this was a good story for Nancy, but I really, truly believe these women were motivated by stopping something that was so morally unethical and so wrong. I think that is what they were after, first and foremost. And I really respect that.
Yep. Yeah. If I'm ever in trouble, I'm calling those three.
Ruby Begonia.
Yes, we're calling them.
Well, a big cheers to Aletta, Lisa Berry, and Nancy Moscatiello.
Absolutely.
Girls, ladies, cheers to you.
Cheers.
If you love what we do, please rate and review our show or become a supporter through Buy Me a Coffee or Patreon. Whether a single gift or recurring monthly donation, your support is what allows us to keep the tea brewing.
Subscribe on your favorite podcast app or the Scandal Water Podcast YouTube channel, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Show notes are available at our website, scandalwaterpodcast.com, where you can also access the merch store and more.
This episode was executive produced by Candy Thomas, that's me, and Ashley Raymer Brown,
That's me.
It was researched and written by Candy Thomas and edited by Ashley Raymer Brown.
A special thank you to Josh Martin, who wrote, composed, and performed the Scandal Water theme and other music, Matt C. Adams, who created the artwork, and Joshua Reeve, who designed our website and provides ongoing technical support.
As a reminder, this podcast is purely for entertainment purposes. The thoughts and opinions of the hosts during each episode of Scandal Water are their own and do not reflect the opinions of any future guests, advertisers, or clearly professional psychologists. Thanks for listening.